Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ellyiot here, and welcome back to another video, and also the first video of 2023. So I definitely got some videos planned for this year, and also some more Beats with Jay episodes. But today I wanted to do something a little bit different and show you two beats that I made using BeatMaker 3, Chomplr, and also the new kit that BeatMaker 3 released just recently. So when BeatMaker 3 just recently announced and released a new kit, I thought it'd be cool to check it out and see if I can make some beats with it. All right, so if we go to the sound store, so as you can see over here, it's the first kit in their sound store. It's called Trap Island, and it just released right before 2022 ended. So it hasn't even been out for a month yet. So based on the description, it sounds like the kit is geared towards kind of like a trap inspired kit with a little bit of island vibes and tropical vibes, and also kind of like dance and reggaeton and whatnot. So if you guys have been following me for a while, you know I don't really make like trap beats. I do make dance and house tunes. I definitely have messed with trap beats, but I still kind of made it my vibe and not just straight up like trap beats or whatever. So all these folders contain sessions and a lot of different banks that you can use, which again consists of drums, bass, and different instruments. But we're not going to go through every single sound here. I'm just going to play you the beats that I made using the kit, or using some of the sounds from the kit, just to give you an idea of how you can make it sound. So I made two beats flipping the same sample, and I flipped a sample from Chomplr. Now obviously you can make a beat just using the kit. Like you can do that with any kit. You know what I mean? So obviously I want to use the kit in a way that I would use it within my workflow. You guys already know that I like to use Chomplr, so I wanted to see if I can incorporate Chomplr into the workflow using sounds from Trap Island. So the two beats that I flipped, I did one, my style, like totally like my vibe and my style. And then since the kit is called Trap Island, I tried to flip a beat that's more trap inspired. So I'll go ahead and play the first beat. So I'm gonna quickly break this down. I'm not gonna do a super in-depth breakdown like in my Beats with Jay videos, but I'll quickly go through some of the things and different sounds that I used to create this beat. All right, so the first thing was a sample, and the sample was from Chomplr. So I'll play a quick snippet of the original sample. So yeah, that's the sample, and I literally just looped it. I just took that first section in the beginning. There is like a whole other part to the sample, but I only used that beginning part. And I could have chopped it up like crazy and all that, but I just wanted to use that loop because I was able to play like a really nice bass line behind it. So then what I did after that was I created an audio track, and then I set the input in the audio track to internal and selected Chomplr so that I can record the sample from Chomplr into the audio track. So here's the recorded sample on the audio track, and then I still kept the OG sample and just muted it. So the effects that I added to the sample, some sidechain compression. I also added a filter, high pass filter to take out some of that bottom end, and I also added FAC Chorus to give you that kind of nice lush chorus effect. then also BitJuggler to kind of degrade the sound a bit. So BitJuggler is by Tone Boosters, which is kind of like I guess like a lo-fi effect where it makes your samples sound a little bit degraded or kind of like an old school sampler. You can decrease the bit depth to like 12 bits, 16 bits and all that. But yeah, it's cool. I just used the vintage sampler preset and tweaked it a bit. FAC Chorus by FAC. Shout out to Fred from FAC because he has super dope plugins. Check out his apps. So this is what it sounds like with all the effects. And then without the effects, this is what it sounds like. So that's that. And then after that, I laid down the drums. So the drums that I used was from Trap Island, and I used TPK P2 drums. So here's all the drum sounds. For the drums, let me play you the drum loop really quick. So for the drums, I use Bit Crusher within BeatMaker 3's effects, and I also use Schlap. So another cool thing about the banks within the Trap Island kit is that they have preset macros. So I'll just play around with these a little bit to give you an idea of what you can do with the macros. So I used one of the macros within the drum beat, and I used the tune macro. So this is what the drum beat originally sounded like without the tune macro. So yeah, it doesn't sound the same. It sounds completely different. But when I pitch it down a bit, I think I had it at 43. Now the drums are slapping. The drum samples and sounds already sound pretty good as they are already, but once you start stacking effects, then you can really make them slap. So now I'll play the drums and the sample together. So the next thing that I added was an 808 bass, which is once again from the Trap Island kit. And I will say all the bass banks within the Trap Island kit, they all sound pretty fat. So this is the bass line that I came up with. So the only things I added within the bass bank was some sidechain compression to the kick. So those kicks cut through the bass. And once again, there's some preset macros within the bass bank. And within the macros, I added some saturation to make the bass sound even more fat and grittier. So this is what it sounds like with the rest of the beat. The other two things that I added was just a little chord progression and kind of like a little synth lead / melody on top of the beat. So for the chords, I actually used AudioKit's new app, which is called SAGA Synth or SAGA Synth. So the whole idea behind the synth is the synth sounding like it's coming from a video game. Definitely a cool app, especially if you're into kind of like chiptune beats or whatever, or just video game synth sounds in general. So definitely go check that out if you're into that sort of thing. All right, so here is the synth that I laid on top of the beat. There's that. So the effects that I added to the synth was some sidechain compression to the kick once again, and FAC Medusa. So FAC Medusa is the latest app that Fred released within his line of apps, and this app is dope, man. It's basically saturation / distortion. Again, there's a bunch of presets and a whole bunch of different parameters you can mess around with. One thing that's really cool about this app is this section here, and you can add saturation either to your lows, to your mids, or to your highs. You can only imagine what you can do with that, especially for drums. But it's not just good for drums. Like, you can use it, or you can apply it to anything that you want. And for example, like, I applied it to the synth here, and I applied it because I wanted the synth to sound a little bit more grittier, because without it, this is what it sounds like. And with FAC Medusa applied, this is what it sounds like. So it's just a lot more punchier and grittier. It's kind of like more in your face. But check out the whole line of FAC apps by Fred. Shout out to Fred, the developer who makes all the FAC apps. Every single one of his apps are dope, man. I'm telling you. Pretty sure I have every single one of his apps. The majority of his apps are effects plugins, but they are all really good, like really good quality apps. And I pretty much use his plugins on almost all of my beats. So definitely check out his apps for sure. So the other little synth that I added again was from SAGA Synth, and I literally just duplicated the synth that I already used from SAGA Synth from the synth chords. This is more of a lead. So I basically just duplicated the synth that I have here, and it's even the same patch that I used. All I did was just play it at a higher octave. So this is what it sounds like. All right. And the only things that I added to that was the same thing, because I duplicated it from the original synth. So just some sidechain compression and FAC Medusa. So this is what it all sounds like together now. So before I move on to the next beat, I just want to see if I can remember the chords. And then for the other part, it was... So for the bass, it was... And the bass is really dope, man. Like, not only does it sound fat, but you can also do like the 808 glides. So yeah, that's the whole beat. And as you guys heard, the beat is totally my vibe. I was able to incorporate what I normally use in my beats, but also using some sounds from Trap Island. And I must say that I am quite happy with the results. I'll definitely be using these drums again and probably the bass. I'm not just going to use it like one time just for the video. Like I'll actually use these sounds within future beats that I make. So once again, I use the drums, TPK P2 drums, and I also use the TPK P3 808 bass within the Trap Island kit. So if you like the drums and if you like the way the bass sounds within this beat, go check out those 2 banks within the kit. And now let's check out the second beat. All right, so here's the second track, which is the more trap inspired beat. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. All right, so let's quickly go through everything that I used here. So once again, I used the same sample. And the thing that was interesting about the sample is that the original tempo for the sample was 80 BPM. And the cool thing about 80 BPM is that like at 80 BPM, you can do like a really kind of like slow, like head nod beat. But then you could also double it up and go to 160 and then do kind of like a dance or like a trap beat. Because usually dance or kind of trap-ish beats lie around that tempo, like 160 or like 120, 130 and all that, even 115 or whatever. You can flip those kind of beats within that tempo range. So I basically just doubled up the tempo and bumped it up to 160. So I didn't have to do anything to the sample. The only thing that's different within the sample is the effects. So for the sample, I didn't use FAC Chorus. I just added some compression once again to the kick. And the effects that I actually used was all the built-in effects within Chomplr. So I used like all the effects here. I think I used lo-fi, low pass and high pass, and some reverb. And then just like the first beat, I had recorded the sample into an audio track here. So this is what the sample sounds like on its own. So as you can hear, the sample kind of sounds more lo-fi-ish. It has kind of like a more grittier sound to it. As opposed to the first beat, the sample sounded more bright. So the next thing I added was the drums. And this time I used a different set of drums within Trap Island. I used TPKP1, which is from the first bank. And I'll just quickly go through the sounds of the drums within this bank. So the only other effects that I added to the drums was Schlap and FAC Bandit. And as you can see, once again, within the bank, you can play around with all the macros here to further enhance your sound. So let's hear what the drums sound like. Here's what the drums sound like without the effects. And then once again with the effects. So here's the drums with the sample. So after that was the bass line. There's some slight differences, but for the most part, the bass line is somewhat similar to the first beat. The bass that I used was the same one from the previous beat, which is TPKP3 808. And all I added was sidechain compression to the kick drum. And I also added some saturation, which I applied from the macros within the bank. So this is what it sounds like with the rest of the beat. So the other thing that I added was some strings, which would come at the hook. So the strings that I used was from Pure Synth Platinum, and the patch is Glissando, and it kind of gives you this sound, like kind of like those disco strings. So here's what the strings sound like on its own. And the only thing I added was sidechain compression and some EQ from 6144 by DDMF. So I added some high end, some mids, and took out some of the lows. All right, let's see if I can replay this. So this is what it sounds like with the rest of the beat. All right, and lastly, I added a vocal effects to the beat. And the vocal effect is from another drum bank within Trap Island, which is TPKP8. All right, so I'll quickly go through all the sounds within this bank. And yeah, the drum sounds from this kit are really dope too. But the only thing I used within this bank is the vocal effect. But I think I'll definitely make another beat just using these drums. So here's what the vocal effect sounds like by itself. So the effects that I use for this vocal track is just a FAC Medusa and a high pass filter within a BeatMaker 3's effects. So once again, this is what it sounds like on its own. And then this is what it sounds like with the beat. And the vocal effect kind of just gives it a little more flavor to the track, especially at the turnaround when the loop starts again and then that vocal effect comes in. It just adds a little bit more of an impact to the beat, or when the beat drops. All right, so that's it for the 2 beats that I made using sounds from Trap Island, which is BeatMaker 3's latest kit. Would I recommend the kit? Absolutely. Even just for the drums and the bass sounds alone, I think it's totally worth it. I know I didn't go through every single sound within the kit, but I wanted to use it how I would normally make beats. Like I said earlier, of course I can make a beat using just sounds from the kit. But in reality, when I'm making a beat, I'm pulling sounds kind of from all over the place. I may be using drums from here. I may be using a bass sound from this synth. I may be using some samples from Chomplr. I'll definitely be using this kit a lot more. I'll definitely be incorporating some of the sounds within my beats. It's good to have sounds that I know I can use and that I could actually use within my music. But yeah, my first impression of the kit is really good. I would definitely, once again, recommend it. You saw the whole library of sounds that the kit comes with. I really only scratched the surface with these 2 beats that I made. So let me know what you guys think of the 2 beats. Let me know which beat you like better. If you like the first beat or if you like the second beat, drop a comment below and let me know what you think, your thoughts. And also let me know if you purchased the pack as well and if you made some beats with it, because I would love to hear it. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something from it. Let's go 2023, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.